Okay, welcome everybody to today's webinar, Best Practices of a Customer Success Manager, and today's topic, Actions with Impact. You're here today with me, Gustav Aurén, and Johan Nilsson.
Hello everyone. I think it's a really important topic today. It's always an important topic, but in these times when things are a little bit turbulent and perhaps there is a slowdown in some areas, I think it's even more important, this topic. I talked to a lot of people and I spoke to venture capitalists who said there's not a better industry to be in than B2B SaaS in these times, and I would agree with that because it's a very strong model. And I would say also that customer success is always important, but even more so in these times because the most important thing you have is your customers, and you have to really start looking after them even more in these times. And there's a lot of opportunities there to do more, to help them more. So I believe everyone in B2B SaaS and everyone in customer success, I think we are in the doing the most important work at these times.
Yeah, and I think sales and marketing and everything is slowing down because the market is, even though we're in SaaS, so to get that extra focus on your current customers and make sure that they succeed in these times, I think that's the right way to go at the moment.
Absolutely, and I think everybody should put even more into this and put more, invest more, and do more with the customers. And we in customer success, we are the ones working closest in the front. So I think we have a lot of good things to do in these times.
Yeah.
And they will become better.
Yeah.
So we are very positive that this will be short term, but we have to face where we are, and I think today's webinar is all about that.
Yeah. So today's webinar, we have an agenda for about 25 minutes of webinar, and then we're going to have a Q&A like last time with Johan, and this webinar is being recorded, so you get all the material afterwards. You can send your questions in the chat during the webinar, and we'll answer them the best we can at the end. I think most of you are getting familiar with Start Deliver, but I'm going to take it shortly. We have a customer success platform or system that helps you collect usage data from your product and from other platforms in your company to help your customer success team become more proactive and data-driven and act on those early signals for churn and for possibilities of upsell or up retention shortly. And today's webinar is Actions with Impact. But before we go into that, we're going to do just a short recap of part 1, as this is part 2 in this webinar series. And last time we talked about, customer success is a philosophy for the whole organization, but it's also very often a team that drives the CS focus. And I think we focused a little bit more on that team and what a typical week for a customer success team looked like. And our study showed us that you can basically put the activities into these 4 boxes. And when we discussed these 4 boxes, they came up to that it's about incoming issues, questions from customers is very regular. Meetings and managed projects with the customers is one thing as well, and admin stuff and doing tasks from colleagues. We talked about that as well, that you need to let the customer success focus on the right stuff as well there, and evaluate customers and drive new initiatives. And what our study showed us is that about 80% of the work is being done in the left column here, and about 20% is being done in the right column. And of course, this is the reactive work in the left column and the proactive work in the right column. And the next step from this was to focus more on why do we get stuck in this reactive mode, and how can we move on to being more proactive.
This is a very common situation. We discussed it in the last webinar. And why we get stuck in reactive mode, there are several reasons to that, but one part is that customer success is in the middle of everything. We are close to the customer, we are close to the product, to the dev team, close to support. So everybody wants our help in some way. And usually when we do reactive things, those are not bad things necessarily. They are probably really important, but they don't help us in the goal of customer success.
Yeah.
And the goal of customer success is to make your customers stay longer, buy more, and advocate for us, which is Lincoln Murphy's definition. And I think that's why we introduce customer success as a team as well, because we need people to focus on those very, very important areas. So it's very common, it's very natural to get reactive, but the big value of customer success is to be in the proactive column, in the proactive boxes, and working from there.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said, to act on those early signals, both when you have your upsell opportunities and when you have those churn signals.
Absolutely, and the proactive work pays off not immediately, usually, but in the long run, if you don't do the proactive work, you will not make a real change.
Yeah.
And that goes both for saving a potential churn, and it goes also for upgrading, expanding a customer. You plant the seeds for an expansion early.
Yeah.
So you have to do the proactive work, and you have to allow yourself as a team, as a customer success manager, to do the proactive work.
Yeah.
So it's really important, and it's even more important, I would say, when there is a tougher times, when there is pressure on the system, and when it's pressure on the customer base, it's even more important.
Yeah. Remember, all your customers out there are different, and I mean, if support and training and guides and product tours and everything worked fine, you wouldn't need the customer success team, but the customer success team is there to be proactive and to be drivers of change. So that's really important to keep that focus up and make sure that right column gets prioritized and at least 50-50 or even more % are being done in that work. Okay, and I mean, what moves the needle here? What can you do to become more proactive here?
So first things, if you open up time in your schedule so you can really be proactive, then the next step is to prioritize. So you spend your proactive work on the right things. And when you realize you have to prioritize, then you need to start looking at data. You need to look at where is the customer and how is the customer doing. Are they really using your product? Are they happy with the product? What's the desired outcome for that customer, for that customer group? So then you need data to understand where the customers are and where should I put my proactive time. When you have data on your customers, that's always like an eye opener. Then you understand, sometimes it's better than you thought, sometimes it's worse than you thought. And from there you can plan what the actions should be, the proactive actions, what they really should be. Yeah. And that's where you realize also there's different customers are in different stages, customers have different issues, different problems, and you have to prepare different solutions and different fixes to these scenarios.
Yeah. And I think that's where we ended the last webinar as well. We were talking about 4 problems that require different fixes there, like fixed competence is a regular one, fixed technical issues is a very regular one as well, and way of working and motivation. So those were the 4 boxes we were talking about, and I think we're going to deep dive even more in these today and how to act on them. So now we know where we want to go. How do we get there?
A very common thing we get asked a lot is how to automate and how to do things more independent of the person, the manual work, and I think that's something everybody is looking for, and it's on paper it always sounds really nice and easy. I think in reality it's much more difficult to realize. But our best advice here is to look at what kind of problems, what kind of issues can we automate, and what works today.
Yeah.
I think one of the best advice around automation in any way is to only automate something when you know it's working, when you have tried something that's really working. Then you can automatize that, and then you can move on and make sure something else can be automatized. People overestimate what can be automated, and I think it's start simple, start with the things you know works already, and then free up time for manual work instead, to be spent on the more complicated, more delicate, more important things. Things that we believe are good to automate is where you have stakeholder specific things. And what do we mean by that? We mean, for instance, if you have a more of a technical user, or if you have a more of a manager user, or you have a super user, all these different stakeholders do things that are very specific for them in terms of content. I think that opens up a little bit of creativity. And some of them are maybe preferred to get automated things, like a technical user sometimes prefers to get a guide, to get more detailed know-how in a mail or in a message in some way. So look at stakeholder specifics and maybe identify one or two that you can automate for.
Yeah.
Onboarding is usually more of a standard process where you know things, how they will go, where the questions are, where the issues are. Set up an onboarding that's more or less automated, where you can give real good advice, you can get real good content along the way. I think those are areas where you can automate. Usually not completely, but you can at least do more there.
Yeah.
And also, like a new user onboarding is like another area, of course, where you have onboarding, but in a smaller format, where it's usually one new user or several new users.
Yeah, and this is actually a more typical reason for churn than most out there realize before they get the system to measure this, because stakeholders change, and you don't onboard the new stakeholder, and that stakeholder might or might not have a favorite system from an old company, and then they change you in months or even faster.
Yeah.
So when the decision is made, it's hard to come back. So that's really good signals to look at and make sure that you have standards for new user onboarding as well.
Yeah. And also the last part on this is, I think, to do like an inventory of what the content you have, and very important, what really works, what are being consumed. Because my experience is there's a lot of people creating a lot of content that nobody reads or nobody likes or nobody engages with. And to send that to your customers probably won't be a good idea. So look at what really works and what you have used previously, and take the best you have, and reuse that for your customers.
And there's a lot of tools out there to help you realize what content is moving the needle fastest, I think. Both marketing automation and customer success platforms and support tools, everything have possibilities of working with great content today. So
absolutely.
So where do we need to focus?
Yes, so if we can automate things around competence more, maybe do more training, more things there, then where should we spend our precious hours every week as a customer success manager? And I think we should put our focus on these two boxes we call fix of way of working and fix motivation, where I think the main drivers of change are.
We have some common obstacles here, I think, that we need to think about as well.
Yes. So if you have identified that one of your customers is in one of these two boxes, then usually there are several things you have to overcome in order to make a change there. And one common obstacle is that you don't really know why they are not active, why they're not engaged, why they're not using your product. And you need to drill down there and really understand the root cause. That's one obstacle before we can act. Another obstacle is we are not really into this customer's business. I always ask a customer success manager, what did the customer do? And if the customer success manager don't really know, it's going to be very hard for that customer success manager to give advice and to solve and to change and improve for that customer. So it's a simple thing, but are we really into the customer's business? Because if we're not, that's a great opportunity for us to really go further and to make an impact.
Yeah.
So don't just know it on a surface level. Go more into depth on what's the business of this customer.
Yeah, and make sure you know why they got your solution in the first place, and get back to that reason if you have to. I mean,
Exactly.
And one common obstacle there as well is that you can't get through to the stakeholders. And that might be because of many reasons, but one regular one is that they're ghosting you, they're not answering clearly. And I think we actually asked Lincoln a bit about this as well, and talked to him, and he sent in his reply again about why he believes customers are ghosting you. So here's a few minutes with Lincoln.
Hey, this is Lincoln Murphy, and I got to ask this question. What's your best tip for customers that are ghosting you? Well, let me tell you. First of all, what does that mean? When a customer has, and they're still a customer, they haven't canceled yet, but they have stopped engaging with you. They don't open your emails anymore. They don't answer your phone calls. They don't respond to chat requests. They don't use the product. Maybe they use the product, but they're not responding to anything else you do. They're ghosting you. They have gone dark. And we don't want that. How do you stop that? How do you keep customers from ghosting you? Well, first and foremost, we don't want to let them get to that point in the first place, right? I mean, that's obvious. But how do we do that? How do we make sure they don't get to that point in the first place? And what if you already have customers that are ghosting you? Am I going to help you solve for that? Absolutely. But knowing what we can do to keep them from getting that point in the first place is absolutely critical in unghosting them now. So you see, customers will ghost you when their value perception of what you can give them, of what interacting with you is going to provide, when their value perception drops below some threshold, maybe not to zero, but basically they've realized in their mind that they're not going to get any value from interacting with you, that's when they stop interacting with you. Now, why does this happen? It happens because we focus only on us. Every interaction is trying to sell them something or talk about the product or whatever. They want to hear about them. They want to know what's in it for them. They want to know how you can help them reach their goals. If you communicate with them in your meetings, in your chats, in your emails, in whatever marketing you send them, any in-app messages, if you communicate with them in a way that is centered on the value that they're going to get, they won't ghost you. It's as simple as that. But when we teach our customers that we don't care about them, when we teach them to ignore us, well, they will do exactly that. And we teach them to ignore us. We teach them to ghost us by not delivering value. So go back and look at all of your communication with your customers, any automated messages that go out, any timed messages that go out, anything you have in your playbooks or your workflows, any of the processes you have in place, and make sure every interaction, every intervention is value-oriented. Now, that doesn't mean you can't sell them stuff. It doesn't mean you don't talk about your product. It just means we have to position those messages in a way that resonate with the customer. And how do you resonate with the customer? You make it about them. Now, how do we unghost customers? There are lots of tricks and tactics that you can use, switching the email from address, even switching the domain in case they've blacklisted you. But really what it comes down to in terms of re-engaging is making sure that our message resonates. They might ignore all of your messages and one comes across that speaks to their goal. And all of a sudden, They're not ghosting you anymore. It's as simple as that. Now, yes, you can get Snoop Dogg to record a video message for them. I've done that, and it's awesome. But you don't have to do that. Just go back and look at your communication and make sure you understand what's in it for them. And if you look at a piece of communication, whether it's an email or a script for a phone call, and you probably shouldn't be doing scripts, just do outlines, but whatever, and you can't tell me, or you can't tell yourself what's in it for them, then you need to delete that message or make it about them. It's as simple as that. To get them to unghost you, you know, put on your creativity hat, figure out ways to get in front of them, but make sure that the message is on point. And what is on point? It's whatever is going to resonate with them. It's whatever their goal is, their values, whatever it is that they're going to look at this and go, these guys finally get it. And that's how you bust ghosts.
Okay, thank you again, Lincoln. And I think the most important thing that we need to get out of that is that you need to create value. Always create value for your customers. Don't just take that meeting to have that meeting, but be clear with what the goals are with the meeting and what you want to accomplish for your stakeholder. And if that brings value to him, he will be interested in stop ghosting you.
Sometimes we are very focused on our own work, and we want to achieve things, and we want to be active, and we set appointments just because we have a goal to see the customer X amount of times per year, and I need to do my X amount of appointments or calls every week. But don't forget that why should the customer, and even more, why should this stakeholder take time to see you and talk to you?
Yeah.
What's in it for them? I think that's the main point here from Lincoln, that we should be very active, we should do a lot, but we should have a really good purpose for our actions.
Yeah.
And a good purpose in our world is to give more value to the customer.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point. And when we do this in a good way, and when we do this over time, that makes the difference. The real big difference from a customer success manager is someone that's really active, always giving value, always with the customer's outcome, customer experience in mind. That's where you do. Then you really start moving the needle.
Yeah.
And we actually have a really good framework for doing this and working with this. And it's a 5-step program, and it's a 5-step playbook that we wanted to share with you.
Yeah. We're going to talk a lot about this on our yearly event Impact this year as well. So if you haven't signed up for that, you should look at that as well. And I think Lincoln is going to talk more about the purpose and people involved in these processes as well. So they're going to get even more deep dive, but to get into this 5-step model that really works.
Yeah. So these 5 steps, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of working. When you spend proactive time, when you want to make a change, this is a good framework to make sure we're not getting becoming ghosted by the customers later on.
Yeah.
The first step is prepare. The second step is think step by step. Third step is be too good to refuse. The fourth is be super relevant, and the last one is be a go-getter.
Yeah. And this is actually pretty similar to sales. So, I mean, if you don't have that go-getter attitude, you're more of the empathy kind of customer success manager, and I think that's really good for your customers as well. Then you might want to have some coaching with the sales. Try and bring them in and try to have contact with that customer that is ghosting you, and I think you'll get some new techniques there as well. And I don't mean the one that you like silence your number on your phone before you call, but more on how to make value in that call and be concise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we talk about preparations here, what is our reason for calling this customer? Maybe the background here is, as an example, we have a customer. the usage is dropping. We have very low engagement from the stakeholders. We don't have any feedback. They are not really contacting us, and it's one of our customers, and we want to talk to them, and we want to do a lot of things. We have made our analysis, and we now want to make this happen.
Yep.
I get a lot of times I get a call where a supplier just want to meet.
Yeah.
The purpose of the call is that they want to meet with me.
Yeah.
And I always decline a call. I
Yeah.
always decline a meeting like that.
Yeah.
Especially if we're talking now about fixing motivation and fixing way of working, which are bigger
Yeah.
topics, and we're usually talking to a stakeholder. Why should they spend time with you? Why should they accept a meeting?
Yeah.
And if you only ask for a meeting because you're a vendor or you're the supplier, you're usually gonna get they're gonna postpone it, they're gonna avoid it because they have 100 other things on their priority.
Yeah.
So we really need to think, why should they do something? Why now with you? And I think the best way here is to spend a little bit of time preparing it like a case with this customer.
Yeah.
So you need to make your analysis where we are with this customer, but then you can call other users, call other people at this customer to understand more. Where are they? What's the main priorities on their side? What's happening? Gather some information if you don't have it already.
Yeah. And there you will get down to the reason why, and not that the usage is declining, but that why the usage is declining.
Yeah,
And
it
that's
can be
the important
several
part.
different
Yeah.
things. It
Yeah.
can be they made some changes internally. There's some new managers.
Yeah.
There's a new product launched. Whatever. It can be a lot of things happening on their side that you really need to understand in order to get an appointment with the stakeholder.
Yeah.
And when you gather that information, you should start putting together like a case. And that case is not about we need to get usage up, because no one is interested of getting usage up.
No.
But everybody's interested of improving something on the business perspective,
Yeah.
cutting costs, getting more sales, getting more leads, saving time, saving money. That's interesting from a stakeholder point of view.
The value that usage creates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the case, you need to prepare it, then you're ready to make the call. And we actually wanted to share just an example of how that can look like. A case is not like making a 100-page document. It's more about finding real things that could bring value to the customer. Usually it's a call, but it could also be like a summary in a mail. Mail and a call is a combo that usually works really good. Where you can, in the mail, you can be more, you can explain it in more depth, and then you call to follow up and to actually get the meeting.
I mean, even though if you have a good case, there might be different reasons that you don't know about, or even you know about, that is blocking this case of yours. That might be really strong. It might be time consuming, or it might be sound really big for the customer. And I think that's a great reason for taking this step by step.
Yeah, so even if you have this good case of yours and you believe strongly in it, and you have even talked to other people in the organization that also confirms it, you still might not get this appointment. You still might not get them engaged in doing this right now. It can be priority reasons on their side. It can be a lot of things. But have you done this and you started talking to them and you show that you have a real interest in helping them and really bringing value to them, you start building trust again. And you will get to talk to them more often, and soon my experience is that they will ask you for things. Maybe not exactly this case you have or this like plan you have, but they will ask you for other things. So by showing that you have thought about them, that you have real interest in bringing value to them, they will start trusting you more, and they will ask you for other things.
Yeah.
And you have to think it as a step-by-step process.
Yeah. And I think some good side tracks might be that you maybe get started on help the customer to get started on some templates, or maybe plug in that extra integration for free that might help them in their processes, or maybe check into their data, make sure they get some new data points or some new data to look at, or maybe start that report center for them and put them some new reports for the manager to look at and see the results of your product. Be too good to refuse. I mean, that's a really good point of view that you always talk about, Johan.
I think sidetracks are great. Just to keep talking to them, to drive some small steps forward is great. But if we go back to this case of yours and this idea and this plan, make it as low friction as possible for them to say yes or to involve you.
Yeah.
I think if we have a big plan and a big idea and it takes too much of their time, effort, cost, whatever, they will refuse it just by that.
Yeah.
And if we're in a situation where we have like a motivation problem or a way of working problem, and we have a potential churn at risk here, we need this project more than them.
Yeah, and you need to make immediate results.
Yes.
Yeah.
So make it too good to refuse. Take away all potential risks from their side to get more involved and do more.
Yeah.
If it's cost, take that away, or take it away at least in the beginning so they start doing things. Put all the work effort on your side.
Yeah.
Put all the effort on your side and try to do something that will get some immediate result.
Yeah.
So it's not too far away for them to see benefits of getting more work done in your product.
Yeah.
Another important thing to get through and to really get this appointment and this call with the stakeholder is to make it even more interesting. And a very, very good way, and it's of course nothing new and everybody knows about this, but it's to share similar examples. Share a case from another customer of yours in the same business or industry, similar size organization, similar tech stack, similar setup. Everybody likes to hear something they recognize from their own environment, their own world. So use whatever you have that could be relevant for this customer, and this will make it more interesting.
Yeah.
So this is about selling your idea and your concept to this customer.
Yeah.
And a very good way to do that is, of course, to share some case from a similar company.
Yeah. Okay, so we're focusing on preparing better. We're thinking step by step. We're coming with a solution that is too good to refuse, and we're being super relevant. What's the next step, Johan?
Well, the next step is doing the hard work, and by that I mean really being a go-getter here. Because if we have prepared and we have the right intention, we have good ideas of bringing more value to the customer. We know this, but because the organization, our customer's organization, have confirmed it to us. Then it's up to us as a customer success manager to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that comes down to doing calls, doing mails, doing the follow-ups. Yeah. And I know some customer success managers are really good at this. They usually have some background in sales, but some are coming more from a support, from a more reactive environment, and this is a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But to really be a first-class customer success manager, you have to be a little bit more bold. You have to be a little bit more outgoing, and not be afraid of calling a stakeholder 3 times a day.
Yeah. I think that they don't answer, that might not even be because of a bad reason. It might just be because they're swamped in other stuff. I mean, I come from sales, and I know that in average you need to call a customer like 7 times before you reach them. And that's not because they don't want to talk to you or buy your product. It's just because they don't want to talk in the phone or answer some random number calling.
Yeah.
And that might be even if it's your customer.
And I think the big difference here is that if you call and you have value to them, real value that you have prepared, that makes the whole difference. but if you call them 7 times to ask for an appointment because you want to have your regular check-in,
then you're calling 20 times the
then
next time.
you're harassing the customer. And then you will see what Lincoln talked about, this ghosting phenomenon.
Yeah, definitely.
So the big difference here is to have the right intention.
Yeah. But don't conclude them into ghosting right away if they don't answer you.
Exactly.
Might just be bad timing.
Yeah.
Try again and try again. And when you get that answer and you come with great value and you're still not getting a response, then you can start looking at other solutions.
Yeah. And you can even, if you don't get a response, and you can even do like the reverse sale in customer success as well, where you can basically ask them if this is not interesting, and then you will let it go.
Yeah. If you can't create that value for the customer, they will churn eventually. So, I mean, try and keep them on board all the time.
And in customer success, I think it's really important to have a focus on when you want to turn around a customer, when you want to drive a change, do it intensely for a focused period of time instead of like trying halfway over months. Do a focus for a customer under a 2-week period where you go all in on getting something happening. I think that makes a bigger difference also than doing it like one mail every month. That's not going to make move the needle.
Okay, so to summarize this.
To summarize, customer success, we are drivers of change. We need to make time to do proactive work in order to get changed. And in this proactive work, preparations are essential. Great preparations, and a go-getter mentality. That's where you get traction, where you get impact. And when you do that, that's gonna move the needle. That's gonna make your churn go down and your retention go up.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's really important points you're taking there, Johan. And thank you for today, everybody. We're gonna move on to the Q&A now, and we got a few really good questions here, I see. So over to you, Johan.